All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to American Hammers TV, part of the American Hammers Network. You might be wondering if you are tuning in where Tom Clark is. He will be on with us soon. He is writing breaking news that we will discuss with him as soon as he comes on about Pi Capital backing out of a bid to buy West Ham, which I don't think anybody thinks is necessarily a bad thing. I think we all knew we could do better, and hopefully we can do better. And speaking of doing better, here's Lucas. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm good. I was gonna be so fucking mad if I missed this because on, on on Tuesday, Thursday, I play basketball in the morning, like 5 o'clock.
In the morning?
Yeah,
Why?
and to get my fitness up, you already know that's the only time I can play. And
Okay. No,
so
I'm just joking.
so naturally, when I get
Yeah.
back home, I just kind of like doze off again.
Yeah,
But I'm just already so enamored in like a sleep schedule.
I get it. I get it.
Oh
All
my
right.
god.
So we started like a minute ago. I just brought you in. So we're live. Tom is going to be with us here in a minute. The Pi Capital thing happened. Okay, so he's got to write something up about that. I get this. I understand. So he'll be here in a few minutes. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes. So anyway, welcome. Again, we'll have Tom Clark with us from Football London. James just disappeared. I don't know what's going on today. It's crazy day today, but he'll be back. And he's back. So
Back in the room.
we've swapped sides there, whatever it is. Yeah. So before Tom comes on, I'll give you this things I usually say. We didn't have a show last Sunday because multiple reasons I couldn't do it. Part of it was the way the game played out, which we'll talk about. Part of it was I had my son's birthday party and it went way over the time when the show would have started. So we're not going to have a show this Sunday either. If we do, I won't be doing it. Somebody else might do it, but I won't be doing it. We'll let you know. I'm not going to be here. I'll be out of town. So anyway, we're doing a special show today. Tonight, Katie, 8 o'clock Eastern time. That's 1 o'clock in London. She'll be on with Hometown Hammer. So please watch Katie tonight. And in the meantime, joining us from Football London, from the city of London, or maybe not the city, but a city of London, it's Tom Clark. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, good. Thanks, guys. Sorry we're a little bit late.
No problem at all. You listen. You're busy. I understand. You got stuff to do. I'm just going to run down very quickly who's with us. We just got started. We just went live like 2 minutes ago, 2 and 3 minutes ago. So next to me on the screen, I always point the wrong direction because it goes the other way. You know what I mean? Anyway, there he is. Next to me on the screen, Lucas in Maryland. Lucas, how's it going?
Good. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Nice to meet you guys.
Lucas wearing that sweet New York Mets hat. Can I just tell you a very quick story, Lucas, about this?
Yes.
New York Mets perennially suck, okay? But I'm a New York Mets fan. I have been for many years. And yesterday I was in the aquarium in Boston. It was my son's birthday. I took him to the aquarium. And the Mets are playing in Boston. They're playing the Red Sox. And I saw a guy in a Mets jersey in the aquarium. And I looked at him and said, "Let's go Mets." He looked at me and said, "Let's go Mets." And then we just shrugged. We were like, eh. Because they're terrible again this year. That was the whole exchange.
A bond that can never be broken.
A bond that can never be broken. Anyway, down in the corner, my companion, pretty much every show we do, Proper Cockney, James. How you doing, James?
All good, mate. All good. Tom, nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, you too, James.
And as everybody knows, Tom, who was with Football London, we had Sam Inkersole on with us back when he was covering West Ham. That was a little while ago.
We don't mention his name anymore.
Yeah. So do what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're not allowed to mention his name anymore. He's gone to the dark side.
He's gone off to the club. He's gone off to cover the club I actually hate the most, which is Chelsea. Even more than Tottenham or anybody else, it's Chelsea. But anyway, so Tom, if you don't mind, let's jump right in. You have just presumably filed a story on Pi Capital backing out of a bid to buy West Ham. Tell us what's going on with that. Give us a scoop, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it was the Pi Capital and needing to make a cup of tea that made me a couple of minutes late. Can't be sitting here chatting without a cup of tea in front of me. But yeah, the Pi Capital stuff. Yeah, I mean, it depends if it's your thing, whether it's the interesting side of stuff. I much prefer covering the on-field stuff, but it's huge news and it's a big story. And yeah, it seems that any deal that is dead in the water. But West Ham, and I spoke to the club before coming on here, they're just adamant that they've never received a bid, that no formal bid has ever been received. I mean, David Sullivan said during the summer, the beginning of the summer, can't even remember exactly when, but he did go on the record with quotes as saying that the offer was derisory and they're property developers not interested in the club. But that was from conversations he'd had with the Pi Capital guys, not an official bid submitted, which is, like if you're going to buy a football club, you put a bid in writing. You don't do it via TalkSport on the radio, which the CEO or the former CEO of Queen's Park Rangers, Philip Beard, then went and did and he was on TalkSport, a radio station over here, for a solid 45 minute show talking about it was a prime example of how to talk for a long time without saying anything. It was a hard listen, and it just left more questions than answers. And look, I'm not a West Ham fan. I've been open about that from the start. So I don't have the strength of feelings that you guys would do towards the owners, towards the club, towards how it's run. I'm a journalist. It's my job to cover the club. And I love that West Ham are doing well. The better West Ham do, the more fun my job is for me. So
the more clicks you get too, right? I would imagine. Yeah.
Yes and no. You'd be surprised. Sometimes the negative stuff gets clicks as well. But it's. Well, I'm not one to say whether the PAI would have been better owners than GSB are, and I know a lot of people have an issue with GSB. And when Pi Capital first came around, lots of people instantly was just like, well, anyone but Gold, Sullivan, Brady. But that's not for me to give an opinion on, because if Pi Capital do come back in and take over the club, I have to work with them as well.
Of course, yeah.
They did not. There's a lot of questions, and they released statements, and we printed part of one of their statements. And I was asked to buy Pi Capital. They asked us to print it in full, and I read through it. And as I said to them, no, I can't print this because this is basically it's propaganda. I'm more than happy to put my own questions to Philip Beard or to Nabil Piriev, the who's head of the consortium. If you want to answer my questions,
and also wanted by Interpol, I believe. Tom, is that not the case?
I believe it's his father, and that was again another part that we didn't go into detail, because what they say and what is said from coming out of Azerbaijan are two very different things. And Azerbaijan as a country does have some question marks about their legal system, and so that was something that we didn't go into because we couldn't substantiate either side's claims. So
that's a very diplomatic description of Azerbaijan and the legal system there, Tom. I appreciate that.
But Tom, as a non-West Ham fan, and obviously you just said that you're not a West Ham fan, so you're neutral in all this. How do you assess GSB as owners, in your opinion, from the outside looking in?
I mean that. There are things that they could have done better. There are also things which can never change. The move to the stadium, that it's. I do get why fans are upset about it, but it's now about making the best of the situation. The best of the stadium, and they have made efforts. It is better with the stands have come in. Look, it's not perfect. The London Stadium is never going to be the Berlin, and I think. Kevin Nolan said that a couple of days ago. It just isn't, but it is what it is, and you do have to deal with it. And as owners, I know when they came in and they took over West Ham, the club was in a difficult position. So they've moved on, and there has been progress. But as a club, the progress, a lot of that credit has to go down to David Moyes, not to the owners.
Yeah.
But then
clearly,
the owners have brought the manager in. They did. I guess it would take a bit of sucking up your pride to bring a manager back in who you'd let go. Yeah, it was the wrong decision to let him go in the first place. But
absolutely,
they did. But are there things they can do better with the club? Absolutely, of course there are. Are there things that they have done well? Yeah, I know that there are, and I think sometimes they don't get credit for the things they do well because people are set against them, and I understand that people are set against them, and it's hard to change opinions, but I think
what it is, Tom. Sorry to cut in.
No, go ahead.
yeah, for what it is, to cut in, it's not so much. It's the stuff that they've said and haven't followed through with their promises.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously,
Yeah.
the on-field stuff. As a West Ham fan for 34 years, I am seeing the best football and the best team spirit that I've seen for a hell of a long time at this club. Right, and that's down to Moyes and his backroom staff.
Yep.
But regards to the owners, there's a lot of people who lost their businesses, homes, and basically got into a lot of debt because of them. Like from Upton Park, they promised them they'd move certain people over to Stratford, and they never did. And the local traders. And if you go down to Upton Park now I live literally 5 stops away on the train from Upton Park. If I was to go down there, it's just not the same place anymore. And I understand it. Everyone's got to move on, but I would have thought in this day and age, and especially with the economic crisis that we have, we all look after each other. Do you know what I mean? You look after your local traders, local businesses, things like that. And what it is with GSB, they haven't done any of that. They've just sort of sold people a situation to say, you know what, if we can get the local business involved, then the fans follow, then the youth follow, then everyone else follows, and it's basically like follow the leader, so to speak. So the reason why a lot of people are very irate with GSB is because you don't do that to a community club, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, and I have been around there. When I got the job, I made it. I made a point of. I've been to the bowling. So I grew up down in Essex, so it's very easy to go to. Southend was my local club when I was younger. Like close enough to walk to the stadium when you're 12, 13, 14, and your parents let you go off on your own type of thing. But if they were away from home, one of my dad or my granddad or someone, we would often go to see a Premier League game or Division 1 game when we were kids, whatever. And sometimes it's West Ham, sometimes it was Spurs, sometimes it would be lower league. We go and see Orient or something. So I've been there in the stadium and seen that atmosphere and felt that atmosphere and felt what a brilliant stadium it is. And it's not the same at the London Stadium. Like it isn't. Like the London Stadium was brilliant for that Leicester game, first game of the season. It's absolutely buzzing. Like the atmosphere can be good in there, but it's not the same as 30,000 fans like right on you. Like that isn't going to be replicated. And when I got this job, I made a point of going to the area. I think I actually posted some pictures. I jumped on my bike, had a ride around, saw where the stadium was, saw the statue that's there, and then it's a completely different place to Stratford and the Olympic Park and the Olympic Stadium and like when I was younger, going to matches as a fan with my mates, we pub, pie, go to the stadium and then do the same on repeat afterwards. And Stratford doesn't have that. You go and you're in Westfield, you're in the shopping centre. I mean, it's not the same as your local community. And could the club do more to bring in local traders and help them out? Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly something that could have been done better and could still be done better. And maybe the club should look to contact them and because the concourses at the new stadium, it is it is really gentrified and it is very expensive. I haven't actually bought a beer because unfortunately I can't have a drink at halftime during the matches anymore. But I haven't, I'm imagining it's £6 a pint type of thing, and it's expensive, and it's not the same as going to your local boozer. It just it isn't. So I agree there are issues there, and as I've spoken to a few West Ham fans, they say they're still not happy with the owners, even though the team are flying, because it's not about how well the team do, and you can still get behind the team but be against the ownership of the club. Absolutely, and that's every fan's right to hold that. It's also the fans who support the owners, that they're also well within their rights to be pleased with how the club are doing and with the ownership. And whether Pie Capital were the answer, I mean, some people, as soon as the story broke over the summer, people just jumped on it. Brilliant, but without knowing any details about them. Others remain skeptical, and I saw online that there are arguments between the two sides, and it is okay to have different opinions on it for sure. I am trying to be as diplomatic and remain as neutral as possible here, because I do work with the club, I do speak to them, and I don't want to burn bridges, and I wouldn't want to do that if Pie come in later. But I also do completely understand why why fans have issues with the ownerships. Like, and every game you see the flags, and on my way in, I often park up not too far and jump on my bike and cycle in, and you see the flags, and I stop and I chat to people when I'm walking into the stadium, and I understand why people do have issues for sure.
Yeah, but are we in a situation here, Tom, that new owners, whoever we get, it's a tricky situation, whoever we ask for, because a lot of West Ham fans will say, well, we want Man City owners. We want them to go and spend millions upon millions, bringing world-class players and challenge for titles. Or some people will say, we want Leicester City owners who are very community-based, look after their local community, buy well, sell well. So you're in a bit of a fine line, whoever you get, isn't it? Like, as in ownership, but like, we want someone who we can trust, but we don't want to go backwards, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Man City, and what they've done with the Etihad campus and the money they've pumped into the women's team and all of that it's all really commendable. But where does that money come from as well? There's a lot of question marks about the Man City ownership model. Of course, if you're playing Football Manager and somebody offers you a blank check for billions of pounds, everyone always clicks yes, take that, and then you go on and spend it. But in real life, where's that money come from? Like, there are certain question marks over Man City for sure. Leicester probably is one of the best examples of a perfect ownership. There's no such thing as perfect ownership. I don't know a huge amount about where their money has come from, and anybody who's a billionaire, there's probably something questionable in the past, somewhere along the line. But what Leicester's owners have done and how they have communicated with their fans, that is what I think West Ham could learn with, is the communication between owners and fans, which Leicester have just they have nailed that. And
look at the facility they built, Tom. I mean, you know what our training facilities are like. They're porta cabins. I mean, I can walk you. I'll tell you, Tom. I can take you to probably 200 towns in Texas that have nicer facilities for their high school football, American football teams than we have for a Premier League club. And I'm not exaggerating about that. Taking to my hometown, it's nicer. I'm with you on the ownership thing insofar as I don't know as much about the Manchester City owners, but as somebody everybody knows this, who watches the show, somebody who follows French football as well, we all know that the Qataris who own PSG have very spotty records when it comes to human rights, and I'm being really polite. And I'm not sure I would want that at West Ham, to be honest, even with all the money. But a Leicester is more of a model. I agree with you on that. One thing I'm wondering about, I'm going to throw something crazy out there, and laugh at it all you want. A lot of people think that. Let me just ask you this: how much do you think David Sullivan controls what I'm going to say is the propaganda around West Ham? Because every time there's a lot of correlation between transfer window, we're not buying anybody. Now we did in this last window, obviously, it was right at the end. There's a lot of correlation between transfer windows up, we're not buying anybody, and hey, takeover rumors, or some other rumor comes up that is a lot of people think, a lot of fans think, are meant to distract us from the fact that something else at the club is not going right. Are they that sophisticated, Tom? Can they pull that kind of thing off, or is that just ridiculous?
There are certain sites which have good connections with West Ham, and they get information and they put their stories out. And as journalists working for them or writing for them, they're putting out what they believe is the truth. If I got a breaking story, I wouldn't it's funny when you put things out, people then ask you more questions about what about over the summer? It's is Milenkovic going to happen? It's if I knew that was going to happen, I would be the first person to say, because you want to be the one to break it.
Of course. Well, and you as a journalist, because I was a journalist, people all know that too, years ago, not sports. I was in the IT industry, but you have to check your sources, right? You don't deal in rumors. You guys at Football London are reliable, and that's what I like about you. When I read something in there, I know it's true. The British press, quite frankly, Tom, it leaves a lot to be desired, but you guys do a good job. So I mean, I understand what you're saying about if you had that scoop, you'd write it, you'd print it. Yeah. But I mean, do you think is this whole idea that there is a coordinated sort of propaganda campaign that goes beyond just PR? Is there anything to that at all?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't believe that there is a coordinated PR campaign. No, I think people who work for the club, they certainly would leak information that they want to go out there, and sometimes you get different different stories from the club. You'll see, I might write something, but then something on a different site will be different. Like, there were a few of us who were saying Milenkovic was very close over the summer,
Right.
which
Right.
from my sources, like he really was. But then there were others who were saying that it's never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the Zuma, that there was Zuma over the summer was always the priority. And then it did, like, it's funny because, within about a week, we'd all changed our tune, writing how Zuma wasn't going to happen, or, there'd been a hiccup in it. And that's because that's we're not making it up. That's just the information that we've got. And whether it comes, and then if it turns out to be untrue, doesn't mean it didn't, stall at some point. It just meant that there was a hiccup along the line, and you print it out. But no, I wouldn't. As far as I know, there isn't a concerted PR campaign. No.
Which leads me to ask another question. Actually, a couple more things that come to mind, if you guys don't mind. There is the popular impression that a transfer at West Ham is more difficult, more complex than a transfer at any other club. How true do you think that is? I mean, maybe it's because we watch it so closely, and when another club buys somebody, we just hear about the end of it, right? We don't. Is every negotiation this difficult? Does every club try to pull off an option, a loan with option to buy right at the end?
Not every transfer is that difficult, but what you said there about, because I was getting, just constant messages like daily about players that, to be honest, some of them that I'd never heard of. West, and then it's like everybody on Twitter is an expert about these players. It's like, how do you guys, how much time do you have?
Our friend Chris, who does a lot of shows with us, keeps a spreadsheet of all the players we're linked to. He's got hundreds of players on his spreadsheet. Yeah.
And look, some of that's agents, some of that's just scouting players, because watching a player doesn't mean you're interested in buying them. It means you're building up your scouting database. And David Moyes is one of the most detailed when it comes to scouting. And there was some really good stuff when he was at Everton. They had a room, and it was like one of those. I can't remember where I read this. I read this in a newspaper article a long time ago, and then it's been corroborated since. And it's like a room like this, and he's just all over the wall. It's just like pictures of players for if we need an attacking right back, or if we need a defensive right back, or we need one who can switch players. He's very, very detailed when it comes to scouting. So maybe transfers take a little bit long that way, but no, I don't think West Ham are particularly slow. Aston Villa's move for Danny Ings was one of the quickest and most surprising, and it was just like kind of an old-fashioned transfer. It just kind of happened. Nobody really knew anything about it, and then just one day it's like, okay, Danny Ings going to Aston Villa, and look at that and be like, cool, what a brilliant signing that is. But like the Zuma one, it took a little bit longer than he wanted, but it was David Moyes wanted Kurt Zuma, so Milenkovic could have come in earlier in the window, but he had a finite amount of money. And had he gone and bought Milenkovic, Zuma wouldn't have happened. And once he thought that Zuma was back on the cards, or the club, between the two clubs, then it was, we'll take a little bit longer and we'll wait and we'll get.
So he wanted Zuma.
Zuma was his number one priority for defense for the whole summer.
By the way, if you're in the chat room, feel free to ask Tom questions. We'll put them up. We'll get them up there for you. The other thing I wanted, there's a lot. This leads to a lot of other stuff, but the first other thing that is on my mind immediately, if you guys don't mind. There has always, I think personally, there's always been a leaky culture at West Ham. We all know ex-West Ham employee. He's a source for a lot of things. He's got his sources. I don't know who they are. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of West Ham in the knows. They're on News of Mother Brown. They're on Twitter. I mean, it's kind of a two-part thing here, Tom. Do you think we're leakier than other clubs, number one? And number two, has David Moyes sealed some of that up? Because I feel as though the leaks are not coming out as much as they did, let's say, a year ago.
I'll take the second part of that question, and yes, he has. It is not as much as it used to be. Number one, leaker than other clubs. Some yes, some no. It also depends which journalists are covering the clubs as well, because you take someone like David Ornstein, who writes for The Athletic. Nobody knows more about Arsenal than him, and nobody has more contacts with Arsenal than him. We have Chris Wheatley at Football London, who is very, very well he's got a lot of good sources. He's very well connected when it comes to Arsenal, but nobody can touch Ornstein. Also with our side, we have Alistair Gold who covers Spurs, and he is probably the number one go-to guy for Spurs. It's like if Goldie says it, then that's the truth coming out of Spurs. And so I think some clubs leak things that they want to be known. Some are better at keeping it quiet. Others are just so big, they're just behemoths that you can easily get, say Manchester United, for example, just because I've stayed up here in Manchester because I'm going to Leeds on the weekend. But it's so big that you could have 5 people telling you 5 different things from the club, and you wouldn't actually know which one's true because, unless you have, someone who is very, very highly connected with the manager, so it's harder with the bigger clubs for sure. But then, the bigger clubs also have the bigger, more experienced journalists, like say Ornstein at Arsenal. So I mean, West Ham has been known as a leaky club, and it is not anywhere near as much as it used to be.
I personally think that's a good thing, but I'm glad you said that because it confirms a lot of what we've thought here lately. The other thing I was thinking about when you talk about transfers, how much conflict is there? Let me ask you this, another little two-parter. I'm sorry, that's often how I think about things. How much conflict is there between Moyes and the board in terms of money spent, players targeted, etc.? And is it more than what you would get at other clubs? Is it worse than other places, or is it just our impression that it's that way?
Over the summer, I think it was actually a really joined up transfer strategy this year. Okay, a striker didn't come in, but Moyes knew basically how much money he had to spend, and that's why it's 2 permanents, 2 loans with options or obligations. The options are likely to be met to make them obligations, and 2 really good signings for when they do come in next year, like Areola. Absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. I
thought all 4 of our signings were fantastic.
Yeah, it was a really good window. Did he want a striker? Absolutely, of course he wanted a striker.
That was the only thing that was missing.
He's made no bones about that. But he, for the player that David Moyes wanted, for the money that he had to spend, he didn't see the right player available, and he really rates Jared Bowen as being able to play that role, which is why he was more comfortable getting in. Say Kral and Vlasic, who were the final 2 deals of the window. He was more comfortable spending the money on them instead of splurging on a striker that he didn't think was right. Look, I think West Ham are a striker light. I think pretty much everybody thinks West Ham are a striker light. I rate Jared Bowen had a great game yesterday, but he missed, and it was only one chance, but he missed a decent chance on his left foot. I put a tweet out earlier about he needs to work on his left foot. I know he's left-footed. I phrased it very badly. I meant he needs to work because it was the same on the weekend as well. It's like you can't edit a tweet. So I was like, oh, sorry, I'll just leave. There's no point.
I hate that about Twitter. I hate that about it. Yeah.
But do you find though, Tom?
Sorry.
Do you find though, Tom, that you just said it there? We are light on a striker. Is it that Moyes didn't want a striker, or the board didn't back him enough to go and get one?
No, he definitely wanted a striker. Moyes has been adamant that the board backed him through the summer, and the money was there in January. He's said this over and over again that he didn't think the right player was there for the money. He said they put bids in. He wouldn't say who. He keeps his cards close to his chest. Does David? Like even when we have off the record conversations, like one of the great things about being out there in Zagreb is that we managed to have a conversation with him after the pressing, especially after the game when he was just buzzing, and we stand there and you have a conversation with him, and he only lets you know what he wants you to know. Which is his prerogative by all means, because
of course
that's he's got a job to do. We've got a job to do. We ask him questions. We want to get information. It's up to him what he wants to give us. But he has said over and over again that he did want the striker, but he just did not see one. And I think the point was he wanted one who was better than or equal to Antonio. He didn't see the point in spending 30+ million on a striker who's going to be number 2. Okay, you can look at Tammy Abraham and say, all right, 40 million or so. But with a budget of 60 to 60.
That's almost a record signing for us, Tom. Our record signing there was like 45 million.
The problem with a lot of the West Ham fans, especially who I speak to, Tom, is that we sold Haller in January for £20 million. We haven't replaced him. We've only really replaced players like Anderson, Balbuena. Like you take Balbuena out, you put Zuma in. Anderson out. Vlasic in. Like we're only really replacing players that have already gone. We haven't like David Moyes is doing a wonderful job. Don't get me wrong, he's doing an amazing job, but he's getting the best out of fringe players, basically. People like Ryan Fredericks, who last night was really, really good, and other players like that. The problem is with a lot of West Ham fans, and I spoke to a lot of people, is that we're the only club in the league who's only got one striker. Do you know what I mean?
And he's not even a true striker.
He's not even a striker. Yeah. And the thing is,
not a trained striker, classically trained striker. Yeah.
Every West Ham fan would love to win something, but we haven't won something for 41 years. Can you really go and win something with only one striker at your club who we all know is injury prone?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I still agree that they are a striker light. I would say if you look at Moyes' track records of signings, pretty much everyone he's brought in has been either better than the players who've gone out or have improved the team. So Areola will come in and he is, at the very least, he's equal to Fabianski. But Areola is going to be West Ham's goalkeeper for the next, he's 27, 28, next 7 years, Totally. Alex Král, 23, 22, 23. He's going to come in. Obviously, Noble's done at the end of the season. Král comes in and look, whether West Ham fans want to hear it or not, at some point Declan Rice is going to leave the club. Like
Yeah. Let me. Okay, you know what, Tom? Let me derail you for a second. You said on Twitter the other day that Declan is happy with the club, and I believe that. He seems happy with the club.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense for how soon he'll be looking to get out, and where would he go? Where would he not go? Do you have any sense from him at all?
There'll be interest in him every transfer window. How serious that interest is, it's not going to happen in January, but maybe in the summer.
Okay.
He's a Champions League level football player.
Of course he is. Yeah.
We all know he's such a good, and he's getting
world class.
Better and better. And the one thing that West Ham they've got him on a fairly long contract, and he is still only 22. This is his first year of European football. There's no question he's leaving in January. The club don't want to sell him, but it's obviously it's a hard one for West Ham fans to take. But he is not going to spend the rest of his career at West Ham unless West Ham do a Leicester and win the league and they qualify for Champions League football, then he'll stay. Then he'll stay until they're not in the Champions League. It's one of those. I think a lot of footballers have learned from Harry Kane that you do not sign a 6-year deal and get yourself bogged down to a club when, like Kane, obviously it's an open, it's not even a secret. It's just he openly does not want to be at Spurs anymore because he has become a player that is better than Tottenham. And Declan Rice is a fantastic footballer, and he needs to be playing at some point in his career. He needs to be playing Champions League football. I'm not trying to sell him. Like we put that tweet out, and we see the. My site covers loads of other clubs, and so there are writers who cover from the Chelsea perspective, and they write about Chelsea's interest in him. And then the one thing I've said is that what you can add to that is the West Ham stance. You can always put that in because that doesn't change. And each time you got a story, it's fine. I'll call the club. I'll speak to somebody. I'll get the same reply every time, and it's West Ham do not want to sell him. We hear from Declan Rice that he's happy. We don't get that from the club. I don't ask the club, is Declan Rice happy? Because they're obviously going to say yes. We get that.
Oh, sure. Of course, yeah.
But what evaluation would you give, Tom?
Sorry? Ask that. Yep.
What evaluation would you give on Declan? Like, if you was to say a ballpark figure, obviously there is players out there who, like Calvin Phillips at Leeds, who's a very good player. So, will other clubs be looking at other players rather than Declan because West Ham are asking a lot of money for him?
Yeah, they might do. They might have they might decide that he isn't worth the money that West Ham think he's worth. The value of a player is what the club say is, and if the club says £100 million and they're adamant that it's £100 million, then while he's on a long contract, whether in 2 years' time, and if he doesn't sign a new deal, whether in 2 years' time he's still worth £100 million to them, who knows? Like if they could get him to sign a contract like Jack Grealish did with £100 million release clause, then that might put everything to bed. And look, if you want him, you put the cash on the table. To West Ham, he is worth more than £100 million. To Manchester City, he's not worth more than £100 million. They don't need him that badly. Maybe they will do when Fernandinho retires. Maybe that's the one hole in their midfield. Do Chelsea need to spend £100 million on Declan Rice? Not with their current midfield. They don't know. Will they need to in a couple of years' time when N'Golo Kante is not quite as good as he is? Possibly. If I was playing fantasy football and you said how much would you spend on Declan Rice, I because of his age, I think you'd probably look at £80 million. Would West Ham accept £80 million for him? I don't think so. No, and you might have to pay more, more than that to get him out of the club. And I think you would have to pay more than that to get him out of West Ham next summer. Could West Ham turn down £100 million next summer? They could. Would they? I don't know. That's an awful lot of money, and you can buy an awful lot of footballers to replace them for £100 million.
Well, our owners won't turn down 100 million. If someone, and I do agree with you, Tom. Well, I do agree with you about Fernandinho. If he finishes up at Man City, I think, me personally, that's where I think Declan goes, is Man City, and he replaces Fernandinho up there. But I do agree. Like, I don't see our owners turning away 100 million. I know. And one thing I will say about Declan, since he has took the captaincy, and obviously Mark's took a back step now, West Ham have progressed rapidly. Like, we are, like, I never, like, if you had said to me 18 months ago, before COVID and the pandemic, that West Ham was going to be a top 6 club or top 8 club and it be in Europe, I would have thought he was like raving mad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But since he took the armband, and not just that, he's made other players better and all. Yeah. And he's sort of progressed other players on. I just think he's so valuable to us, but is he valuable to someone else? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, I mean, he's a $100 million question.
We're in a little position of power though here, aren't we, Tom? For a change, West Ham have a little bit, because only a few clubs can afford him, right? It's not like he's going to go running off to Palace, And I think we have some leverage to say, yeah, you want him, 9 figures, £100 million, which puts him in a which makes him available to like 3 or 4 Premier League clubs realistically. So it makes me think that if we want to get it, we actually are going to be able to get it, because I wouldn't sell him for less than that. I wouldn't sell him.
West Ham are in the driving seat. He's got 3 years plus the club,
and he's not begging out either.
On his contract.
You know what I mean? No. He's not. Yeah. How one of the things that we talked about a lot here in the lead up to qualifying for Europe was how European football would help us recruit and keep players. And I know it's not Champions League, but it's still European football. Do you think it's helped?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kurt Zuma and Alphonse Areola aren't going to a club which don't have European football. Nikola Vlasic isn't either. I mean, Alex Král probably would have come. Maybe Vlasic and Král would have done because they were playing in the Russian league and they came to. They want to come and play in the Premier League, but Areola and Zuma don't join a team that aren't in European football. Kurt Zuma won the Champions League last season. Okay, he didn't play in the final, but he played a fair chunk of the games running up to it.
He's a legitimate Champions League winner. Yeah, I mean, even though he didn't play the final. So let me ask you this then. This season, we're fighting still on 4 fronts at the moment, since we somewhat shockingly won that game yesterday. I thought it was shocking anyway.
Deservedly as well.
Deservedly. No, absolutely deservedly. Don't get me wrong. I'm thrilled that we won it. Deservedly won it. It's just that of all the seasons I could have seen going out of League Cup early and not been upset about it, this would have been the season. We're fighting on 4 fronts with what I think is a fairly thin squad. Is it good enough, Tom, to make? Let's be optimistic and say the last 16 of Europa League, and not win a trophy, and not qualify for Europe again. Do you know what I mean? Finish like 8th? Is that good enough, or do we need to be, in order to recruit players, keep players? How big of a deal is it to be top 6 perennially now? Which I don't know if we can do that or not.
Well, part of that is a question for you guys. It's a question for the fans, really. Would you be happy with a good run and not winning anything? I think West Ham need to be aiming past the last 16 of the Europa League's slightly different this year. Win the group, which I think they will.
That's true. You go right to the last 16.
Win the group, and you go through to the last 16, and you want to be pushing on from there.
So we should realistically, if our form holds and we don't have injuries, that looks like a real possibility.
Yeah.
Or as a West Ham fan, all I want to see is progression at West Ham, because that's what we was promised when we moved from Upton Park to the London Stadium. Progression. It took a while. It has took a while, I will say that. But over the last, say, 2 years, now we have sort of progressed. Obviously, last year it was in a pandemic. There was no fans about, and West Ham performed very, very well. But this season will really prove to me if West Ham have progressed, or we or it was just like a one-trick pony sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a one-season wonder. We've done really well last year, but if West Ham finished 10th this year, like we haven't, like we're no different to how we used to be. Like, obviously, we're not fighting relegation, but we're not going to the level where I think every West Ham fan wants to see us in like a top 7 finish. I think West Ham can get with like other teams there. Do you know what I mean? With the teams that are in the league, but it's all about progression with me. Obviously, a trophy would be wonderful. Like I think every West Ham fan would be crying out for a trophy because we haven't won one for 41 years. But in the grand scheme of things, if West Ham get to say the quarterfinals of the Europa, finish 7th in the league, and get to say round 5 or the quarterfinals of the FA Cup or whatnot, then I think everyone would go, you know what, this year's good, but next year be even better, and that's how you build your progress.
I agree, but it's
progression is more than just the results as well, because say, I mean, you look how strong City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool are. Say those four could easily just go on these ridiculous runs, and they're miles clear, and the Champions League places are out the question. But Leicester are a really good team. Arsenal and Spurs can throw money in January if they need to push on as well. And that's 8 teams already, gone with those, and breaking into the top 6 is a big set. If Leicester could finish 6th again, if West Ham could finish 6th again, that would be a brilliant season. But if West Ham finished 7th and say qualify for the Europa Conference League, it doesn't make them any worse than last season. It's maybe just another team have done better. But I think my pre-season predictions, I think I had West Ham in 7th in the table, and if they finish 7th, and it doesn't necessarily say that was worse than last season, because the performances on the pitch, and you add in Europa League football as well. And if they have a really good run in the Europa League, that's going to take its toll. I honestly don't think David Moyes would have minded he never wants his team to lose. I don't think he would have minded if they'd have lost last night. 10 changes. He wasn't doing the media duties. Stuart Pearce was put up for that. And it just had the feel of, if we win, great. If we don't, it's not the end of the world. And then you win, and then 10 minutes later, you get Manchester City in the draw, and it's just like...
It was a kick in the nuts, Tom. I mean, we listen, Tom, we had... You know how it is. You know what happened on Sunday. I don't even want to talk about it. I said to James before we started, if you'd tried to sell that as the script of a horror movie to a Hollywood studio, then it said, no, it's too scary. It's too gory. We can't do this. Bring back The Exorcist or something. This is too much. I mean, the whole way. It's if we lose 2-1 to Man United and I don't know, Rashford scores and it's all sort of wrapped up in the 75th minute, whatever, right? It's the way it played out. It was Lingard injury time, Noble missing the penalty or having the penalty saved. The whole thing was a nightmare. And now I forgot what I was even talking about.
Well, basically,
going back to the progress bit, Sunday, even though they lost,
right. That's what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say, Tom. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I was going to say, if nothing else, it showed how competitive we are. The fact that we went down 2-1 in injury time and pushed on and got a penalty that literally 95 times out of 100 Mark Noble converts. That's his percentage is like 95%, So I think it says a lot. And this is what Clive was saying in the chat. I think it says a lot about where we are as a club, where this team is as a team, and the kind of manager we have.
I agree with that to a point. You can do quality performances, but there's got to be an end goal with West Ham. And this is why what I've noticed with Moyes, he's brought in a lot of players who's got a winning mentality. Yeah. Like for how much I love Mark Noble, and Mark Noble to me, I've grown up with him. I've seen him play throughout my life. He's never had the sort of winning mentality that Declan's got.
No, I agree.
When Declan wears the armband, he drives that team to a level that I've not seen since probably '99. Do you know what I mean?
And that's why I fear losing him so much, James, because and I know we will, but we all love Mark Noble. We've talked about Mark Noble a lot on American Hammers TV. You guys know that. We all love him for all the reasons everybody else loves him. He is a captain who looks after his fellow players. He's not a captain who pushes them forward. He's not a captain who could push the club forward. And Declan Rice has pushed this club forward on and off the pitch. As a player, as a captain, as a figure, as a person, he's pushed the club forward. Noble's a wonderful servant. He's a good player, never great, good player,
Mm.
good captain in that he goes and he picks up Andres Ferreira and he carries him around the pitch and he goes head to head with Paul Pogba and all that, good theatrical stuff. But when we go a goal down, he's not the one. He doesn't light a fire. He never did. He never did. And that's what. And I'm sorry, Tom. We've totally gone off on a tangent
here. See, the way I look at this is when you say that about things like about performances and all that, is to me this is the perfect time for West Ham to do something. Because Arsenal are in transition at present. Tottenham, they've just spent a lot of money on a stadium, so they haven't really got they might have the transfer resources, but they ain't going to have much to do. Go out and buy X amount unless they sell Kane. Leicester, they're inconsistent at best. They're either very good or they're bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that with West Ham at present, West Ham are a team that could slip in there and make that one of them spaces their own. But they, as I say, like there's a lot of issues in regards to that. Like Moyes is doing well with what he's got, but I actually do believe that he's trying to build a team for when Declan leaves. Like I do too. I look at all the players that he's bringing in, like Crowell, for instance. We've got Connor Coventry, who's on loan at Peterborough, who I thought should have been given a start this year. I thought he'd done enough in pre-season, and I thought his time was now, but obviously not. But I look at it like this: Declan will go. But is it going to be the same old West Ham when he does? Like, is he going to go? Because you're taking a world-class player, and he's world-class in my opinion. You take him out, and then are we going to have to start again from square one and rebuild, so to speak?
What do you think about that, Tom? That's I mean,
I think it's a really good point, and I think David Moyes has a history of building a squad as well, and he knows what he's doing. He's a very canny operator, and someone like Crowell coming in. It is an eye to the future as well, I mean, David Moyes isn't an idiot. He knows that Declan Rice at some point will not be at the club, and he wants to be. Moyes wants to be at the club for. He wants to build like he did at Everton. He wants to be there for a while.
That's good to hear because every transfer window, we hear fans on Twitter say, "I wouldn't blame Moyes if he walked tomorrow. He's not getting back by the owners." I'm glad to hear he wants to be at the club. That's all. Anyway, go ahead.
No, he doesn't. I think that was a really good point that you made. That you look at the signings, and I also I was really impressed with Coventry through pre-season, and I wasn't surprised because I actually spoken to David particularly about Coventry because I thought he had a very good pre-season, and if Crowell hadn't come in on deadline day, then Coventry was going to be in the first team squad this season. But it was only because Crowell came in. And the reason being is that, yes, Coventry could have sat on the bench and he could have started yesterday if Crowell wasn't there. But is a couple of League Cup appearances and 10, 15 minutes here or there in the Europa League, in the FA Cup, is that good for his development? Or is starting week in, week out in the Championship for Peterborough? He's 21, 22. I think he's 21, isn't he? Yeah. He's captain of the Ireland under-21s. And they just thought that, going to a club where he was going to start every week was a better move for him. And you see, that he is now in the Peterborough team. He started his first game a couple of weekends ago, and I think he comes back to the club. And of course, because Noble's moving on as well, Coventry then comes back next season and cements himself at West Ham. Look, young players, whether he goes on to spend 10 years at West Ham or whether he finds his level at the Championship, that's still up in the air. But I was very impressed with him in pre-season, and so was David Moyes. It was I can't remember which. I think it was the Brentford game. I think it was the Brentford game anyway that I asked him specifically about him because I thought he had a really good one. It was just before Souček and Rice were back, so he was getting a lot of minutes in the team. And I've gone on a tangent now. I can't even remember what the question was. Sorry.
What you said was about Connor Coventry and Crowell, but obviously, I just want to ask you, Tom, are you quite shocked how much progression West Ham has made over the last 18 months, considering if we go back to, say, June last year in the pandemic, when Yarmolenko puts that ball in and scores that goal against Chelsea and we win that game 3-2, which to me is one of the goals and games that actually sort of kept us up that year. Absolutely. From then to now, are you quite surprised how much we've progressed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so I took the job in January, and West Ham were 10th, and because it was New Year's Day was the first day I was starting. I was away to Everton, a late Souček goal, and then from them it was six straight wins in a row, up and up and up, moved up the table. By the end of the January transfer window, sitting in fourth, Jesse Lingard comes in. I never ever once thought that they were going to make the Champions League. It was great,
I didn't either.
Week in, week out, when they were sat in fourth position, and especially when they were above Chelsea and Ingersoll was over at Chelsea, and I was like, Jesus, you left this team to go and cover them. Never ever did I think that they were going to get the Champions League football. Moyes was absolutely convinced that they would have done if Declan Rice had stayed fit, and he knows more about it than I do, for sure, of course. But
That's interesting. So he said that to you?
Absolutely convinced, that Declan was that injury was the one that cost him. Maybe Igbona and Antonio's injuries as well, but it was Rice is the one he's spoken about. I don't agree, with him on that. I think they were always going to drop down a little bit, but 10th when I took over, and I thought that if West Ham stayed in 10th by the end of the season, that would be that would have been progress from the season before. And then you look to push on the next year. I mean, I wasn't covering West Ham, but obviously I'm a football fan and I'm a journalist, so I was covering football. I was actually covering Brentford before, so I was more Championship. Okay. Obviously, watch the Premier League as much as everybody else does and stuff. Completely and utterly shocked that they've gone from in the space of 12 months champions, a relegation battling team, to a Europa League, and they were a Champions League chasing team for a while. They dropped out of it, but for a long while they were in the hunt. And I mean, you guys would have followed them closer than me, so you probably have a better idea, and you could tell me how shocked you are. But now, once from the end of last season to now, I'm not surprised by the progress he's making with the team, because that's the manager he is, and he's such a canny operator. And you look at his record in the transfer window, and you look at his record at West Ham in the transfer window, and there hasn't been a failure. Ben Rama's taken a while, I have, because I was covering Brentford, I watched Syed Ben Rama in the Championship. I love him to bits. And no, not everybody rates him as highly.
Oh, I love him, mate. I love him. Don't get me started on Ben Rama.
I love him.
I love him. Love that geezer.
But I love Ben Rama. I still defend Issa Diop. That's my Issa Diop shirt that I've got. It's got him on the back. I still think he's a good player, worth keeping. He's gotten a lot of stick, but I think he's a good player. It was the same with Fornals. I'm going to tell you, I was a fan of Fornals. Everybody else was slating Fornals. So I get what you're saying. Is it sustainable though, Tom, or how sustainable is it? I mean, we talked about the owners, and I think all of us here are pretty much GSB out. However, I thought the Pi Capital thing was a disaster. I didn't want Pi Capital anywhere near the club for a lot of reasons.
I think what it is, Lee, just to cut in there, mate, it's not so much everyone's GSB out. Because there is a lot of people who are very hardcore, and I'm one of them. I would like to see new owners, a new, fresh ambition.
I would too.
But if I could see progress from them, and what Tom said is 100% right. Since David Moyes has been there, it's David Moyes who's sort of he's doing the best he can, but he's, if anything, he's overachieving. Moyes, he's not. And I look at it
vastly overachieving.
Yeah, we spent 60 million in the summer, right? And 20 million of that was Haller's money. And what people say, I understand what people say is, West Ham done well in the transfer.
We never paid for Haller to begin with, I think was part of the problem. It was we never sent the money. Do you know what I mean? The money never left because we never paid to begin with. But Tom, let me ask you, this is a good point James brings up. I mean, fair to say we're overachieving? How fair to say we're overachieving, do you think?
Last year, absolutely overachieving. Has that set the standard now that anything less than that is underachieving? No, I don't think so. I still think West Ham are overachieving by, you look at last season, that's a massive overachievement. They're finishing above. The squad is phenomenal, but you look at the money that the clubs can spend, and you look at the wage bill. The wage bill is a lot of, you can look at the league table, and a lot of league tables across Europe, 1 down to 10 is the team who come first, the team who spend the most money on wages. There is, because there's also that part of transfer business as well as wages. And West Ham got a fraction of what Arsenal and Spurs can spend on wages as well. And the fact that they finished above them last season shows it's an overachievement. If they can do that again, finishing above Spurs and Arsenal is a overachievement. And
First time we've ever done it in the history in the Premier
exactly.
League.
You could also say it's an
Premier League.
underachievement from their perspective, of course. But
I
think yeah, but exactly. I'm not speaking to their teams, but yeah, I honestly the job that David Moyes is doing at this club is absolutely fabulous, and if he can keep doing it and he keep getting support and gets the players in that he wants, because there's no point, if and I'm not saying he would, but if David Sullivan went out in January and just splurged 40 million on a striker that he thinks the club need, if David Moyes doesn't rate that player, he doesn't fit David Moyes' system, it's just throwing good money after bad, and that's what there's a new guy coming in to head up recruitment to work alongside David, and if they
Rob
can
Newman.
get what he wants, then the club are going forward. Yeah, Newman, who was at Man City before.
You think they're listening to Moyes, Tom? I mean, because Sullivan has been known in the past to just show up with a striker. He just showed up. Who was it he showed up with, James? Who was it he showed up? Was it?
He showed up with loads of people over the years. What I was going to say to Tom, when Tom was mentioning strikers, it's like we're scared to buy a striker because we've had so many failures.
Yes, right, since Dean Ashton. We haven't had a good one since Dean Ashton.
Well, basically, since in GSB's reign, we've had over 100 strikers at West Ham, and like some of them are unbelievable. Like Salazar, we had here Cleary and Hugill, and to name a few. And
Benny McCarthy,
even him, and we've had a lot of
Remember Mido, the Egyptian guy?
And I just think what it is. I think Moyes does want a striker, but I think he's scared because what he's done. He's where he's signed so well. Like he has signed well. He signed Kufal, he signed Souček, Bowen, etc. Ben Rama. Where he has signed so well, you know what it's like, Tom. If you could sign 10 players, and if one of them's bad, everyone talks about the bad one. No one talks about the other 9 that's been amazing.
That's true.
Do you know what I
mean? Everybody goes back to right. That's a good point.
Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them.
I
think that the club are 100% listening to David Moyes, and by bringing in Newman to head up the recruitment is a real a positive step forward. Look, I can't claim to be an expert on what he did at Manchester City, but he comes with a very good reputation, and the fact that Manchester City put him on gardening leave as well shows that they rated him. They didn't want him to just leave and pop up at West Ham and tear up some of their recruitment plans for younger players type of thing. Yeah. I think it's a really positive club at the minute, and they've got a really good manager. And if they listen to him and they trust in him, then it's going places. And I think this summer, and to be fair, January's transfer window shows that David Moyes is being listened to and taken very seriously, because, like you say, there hasn't been a duff signing for a while, and everyone who's come in has been a player he wanted. Maybe Ben Rama was one that came. And this isn't any inside information. This is just a feeling I get that maybe Ben Rama was slightly more of a Sullivan signing than a Moyes signing. But
they sold Grady, right? They sold Grady up from under everybody and shocked everybody by selling Grady to Diangana. But we did get the better of the deal, I think, Tom, with Ben Rama. I really do.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, absolutely,
In hindsight,
look at what Diangana's done, and not saying that he wouldn't have gone on and done really good things at West Ham, because you look at someone like Saido Berahino, like had he got that £20 million move to Spurs 10 years ago, whatever it was, maybe he would have kicked on and become a better player, but he stayed at West Brom and he's had his issues, and I couldn't even tell you where he's playing now. He's somewhere in the Belgium or France or somewhere.
No, he's moved, isn't he? He's moved over to here now. Is it Sheffield Wednesday now?
Well, there we go. And it's a sliding doors moment, and maybe that would have been the same with Diangana had he stayed maybe his career. Hypothetical, who knows? But bringing in Ben Rama now looks a far better player than Diangana did. I mean, obviously there's an age difference as well. It's not to say that Diangana is not a top player.
We probably have like 2 more minutes before Tom has to go, I would imagine, because we've had him for almost an hour. Do you mind if I just jump in and ask one quick question? I think everybody. Lucas, do you have anything for us, buddy? Are you okay up there?
Yeah, no, I'm just soaking it all in.
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to throw this out there in case anybody's wondering. Tom, your thoughts on Jesse Lingard coming to West Ham in January or
that was actually going to be my one question.
Well, there you go. Lucas, would you like to ask?
No.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay.
As in coming in January 2022?
Yes. Or at all. I mean,
he's a Manchester United fan, and he doesn't want to leave his boyhood club, and you can understand why. And he is getting minutes. Okay, he came off the bench on the weekend, and he was He started in the League Cup. But if he gets games and goals for Manchester United, he's going to want to stay there, because if he leaves Manchester United, for him, that's the end of his connection with his boyhood club. And with all due respect to West Ham, Manchester United to West Ham is a step down. He's playing in the Champions League. It might not be a step down for his career, because he gets regular minutes at West Ham and he could get into the England squad. But for him, if he leaves Manchester United on a permanent transfer for good, that's him done with with the team.
He liked it. Did he like West Ham, Tom?
He loved it. He absolutely loved his time at West Ham.
He put his kid in a West Ham.
But did
kit.
we?
That tells me a lot.
Did we not reborn him though, Tom? As in, like
100%. He owes West Ham a huge amount. His career was totally stagnating.
Well, you couldn't tell on Sunday, could you? He didn't really help us out then, did he? But
he did what he had to do for the team he plays for, and he was pushed a little bit into celebrating. And then once the cameras were off him at the final whistle, he did get his full, that was a Griezmann one or whatever his dance is. I'm not going to try and do it. He did his full dance, and you know what? I don't blame him for that. So I've never understood why players don't celebrate against a former team. Look, if it was John Terry scoring for Aston Villa against Chelsea, you could kind of understand that a little bit. But he spent 6
in this country they
months
celebrate more
at Manchester at West Ham, and he's spent a lifetime at.
Do you think though, Tom, it was because of before his loan, he was in the wilderness, going nowhere? West Ham sort of re-energized him, got him into David Moyes more than anyone, got him going again, and basically got him in the England squad and all.
Absolutely, like his career was only going one way until January. He hadn't, there was a running joke last season, and for about 18 months, even I think there was a Twitter handle like, did Lingard score? And he hadn't. He just, he became a bit of a figure of fun. And this is bizarre. This is a guy who started in the World Cup semi-final for England in 2018. Right. And until January, he'd basically done nothing since then. Yeah. And he proved, he had issues in his personal life, which is often something that we don't think about when you criticize a player. You don't think about, he is a human being. He's had issues. Same with John Stones. His form completely dipped when he was going through a huge, he was having real issues with his personal life. And of course it affects you. Would it affect me if I was having the same kind of issues that they had?
Absolutely.
Of course it would. Just because you get paid a lot of money and you get to play football doesn't make it any easier. And he owes West Ham a huge amount. And I think, and he knows that, and he's thanked the club. And will he come back in January? I can't see it happening. I think he wants to stay at Manchester United, and I don't blame him for wanting to stay at Manchester United. Through the summer, I thought he would be wanting to leave the club for sure. I thought he would see what West Ham is doing.
I did too. Yeah.
But he's taken Solskjaer at his word that he's part of his plans, that he's going to get game time and he's going to put himself back in, stay in the England squad. And with a contract running out next year, unless he signs a new one, why wouldn't you stay and give it another go? And if this season has, he doesn't get the game time, you've got your choice, you've got your pick of clubs next summer. But Manchester United, even if he isn't in their long-term plans, they will push him to sign a new contract so they can get a fee for him next summer. But
I agree,
he is, I think for now, he's a Manchester United player, and he will be a Manchester United player for a while. And good luck to him, because he's clearly a fan of his dancing and his celebrations now. That's not my style. As a footballer, quality. And he just comes across as a decent, nice human being as well.
Yeah.
Do you see him sign a new contract though, Tom, for Man United? Can you see that or not?
If it was me, I wouldn't. I'd want to stay there for the year, see how you get on.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
And if you get a load of games, then you sign one next summer. If you're not, then you leave on a free. But Arsene Wenger said this a couple of years ago, that he thinks a lot of players are going to start seeing their contracts out and moving on for free transfers. And I've always thought of it as myself, and was like, you get paid so well. Would you sign a contract for a little bit more money and then and tie yourself into a club, or would you not want to run your contract down and then have a pick, and then you could stay at your club, or you could.
And on the other side, Tom, you got the Winston Reed situation, right, where we signed him to what was a 6-year deal or something like that, and we and he gets injured and he disappears, and I love Winston Reed, but we all know what happened. So there's I have to ask you one quick thing before we go, and I hope you don't mind me doing this. When we had Sam used to get a lot of stick for being a Manchester United supporter, which he was not a Manchester United supporter. Okay, he told us I think it was Exeter City or somebody like that. He supports
Dover Athletic.
Dover Athletic. Okay, well I apologize. I'm sorry. Anyway, Dover Athletic.
Thank God.
Do you mind telling us if you have a club you support and which one it is, if so?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been open about this. It's a local. It's non-league. It's Hampton and Richmond Borough. They're in the National League South.
Tom. We have a big problem then. Okay. Because I happen to live in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, all right, which is named after Chelmsford in Essex.
Yeah.
And I am a supporter of Chelmsford City Football Club in the National League South.
There we go. Yeah, no.
So I don't know, Tom. I'm regretting this whole hour now. I didn't know you were supported a rival club in the National League South. That is shocking news.
So I grew up not far from Southend, who are now a non-league team, which just blows my mind.
Right.
And
which
that
is
was
awful,
a team I would go to regularly. But you guys are GSB out, and you look, but then trust me, it could be worse. You look at the owner of Southend, and I don't want to say too much because I think I could probably be sued for libel if I gave my true opinions on what's happening.
Fair enough.
But Hampton and Richmond, so I got involved with them doing some. This was years ago, doing a bit of media work, just volunteer stuff, and I've become friends with people at the club, but also a couple of good mates who play for the team, and I honestly just fell out of love with Southend and what happened to that football club, and I just despised going to it. It wasn't fun watching what was happening to a club that when I grew up were in the equivalent of the Championship with Stan Collymore getting his first England cap and and it just and whereas I love non-league football. I absolutely love it. I love whenever I have a weekend off or can't even remember if it was the international weekend or I think maybe West Ham just had the game on a Sunday, so I had the Saturday afternoon off. So I was down there on the terraces with my beer and sitting in the clubhouse at the end of the game and I having a chat. And I know that the international weekend coming up on October 10th, 11th, that weekend that I'm not covering a game. I know where I'm going to be for that. I go from watching football to watching football, but just doing it slightly differently, doing it with the boys and having a beer in my hand. And
you still enjoy
it. I absolutely love my job, but there are times when you look at the away fans, and I was down at Southampton a couple of weekends ago, and it was an absolutely dire football match. It was so bad, and I was messaging a couple of friends of mine who are West Ham fans, and they were there on the away day. I messaged them at halftime. It's like, Jesus, this is horrendous.
That was awful.
And they were like,
that's
we've been on the beers, we're having a day out with the boys. I was like, I know, like it's and on that day, I was so jealous of them because I was like, honestly, all I want is a beer right now. Just to get me through this half.
It wasn't fun on the telly either.
Now, I was going to say, it wasn't fun for anybody. But you're a sports writer, Tom. Now, in this country, in the United States, if you go back 40, 50 years, sports writers would be pounding beers and whiskey and everything else with everybody else. You know what I mean? That was what they were known for. The free food, hitting the booze. Our TV announcers, Howard Cosell, very famous American sportscaster for decades, constantly hammered in the booth, and everybody knew it. Monday Night Football in the 1970s, all three of those guys were trashed. So I'm just saying, Tom, if you sneak a little Carlsberg or something, I'm not going to tell anybody. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say anything. And your words are going to be quality. All great writers are great drinkers. Okay, that's
I can tell you if I was going to do it, it wouldn't be Carlsberg.
Well, I'm just trying to come up with the most yobbish sort of English. You know what I mean? Like the Budweiser of England is trying to come up with.
What do you expect on Saturday, Tom? Obviously, you're covering the game Saturday at Leeds. First time that we've been to Leeds with fans since they've been back in the Premier League. What are you expecting up there on Saturday, mate?
West Ham win. Absolutely. Leeds have got a lot of injury worries. They haven't had a great start to the season. West Ham beat them twice last year. West Ham win.
He's not a West Ham fan, you can tell. Because if the other team has a bunch of players out, if they're in bad form, it's absolutely guaranteed we lose that game 1-0. I mean, you guys know this. You guys know how this works.
Yeah.
God bless you, Tom. You're objective, and you can tell.
Bamford out, 1-0 loss.
You can tell how objective he is because he thinks we're going to win.
I mean, they lost to Man United, but they played good football, and
yes, they did.
That's one of those things. Sometimes you take the performance over the result, and the way it's not just the starting 11. And there's only Fredericks who's injured. Lanzini, is hobbling a little bit, but he'll be fine. But he's not in the starting 11 now, so it will just be back to the same 11. I think it's a very easy team to predict at the minute, and it'll be the
Yeah.
same 11 that started
Yes,
against Manchester United. It'll be Zuma in
Yeah.
for Dawson. You know, Zuma Ogbonna is now the centre back parents, and yeah, Leeds have got a lot of injury worries, and I'm really sorry because that is the doorbell, and
listen,
I've locked the fella out.
We gotta go. We gotta go. I haven't had lunch yet. I'm starving. All right, Tom Clark from Football London. Thank you so much for being with us. Please
Thank
come
you
back.
very
much.
We come back.
Cheers, guys. Absolutely, it's been great fun. Just talking football for an hour, always.
Oh, listen, I've
Nice
loved
one,
it. I
Tom.
really appreciate it.
Thanks
It's
a lot, mate.
fantastic. Your coverage is great. Everybody read Football London, okay? Don't read the other garbage British press, seriously. All right, read Football London. It's trustworthy. It's always good. It's well written. Tom, thank you so much.
And
for
keep
being with
bringing
us.
the magic
Cheers,
hat,
guys.
please.
Thanks very much.
All right. Talk to you later. I'm going to. There we go. There it is. All right. Well, I have not had any lunch. It's 1:16 in the afternoon in Greater Boston, and I am so freaking hungry. It's not my normal schedule. All right. But we didn't do a show last Sunday. I can't do it again this Sunday unless, Lucas, you guys want to get a show up. That would be great. Wonderful if you want to do it. All right.
I wouldn't mind hosting.
Please do. Please feel free. James, if you want to come on with Lucas, give some other people, please do it on Sunday evening. I can't do it because it's family birthday season and we're taking a little trip to Maine, and we'll be back on Sunday, but not in time for the show. Anyway, so since we haven't done anything for a while, give me a quick prediction for Saturday, Lucas. What do you think?
With the injury rumors to Leeds, Bamford. I think Click was in there. That should be I'm gonna go 3-1. That should be like a 3-1 where we score first, maybe concede second, and then like they're so desperate for a result because I think Leeds might be the one club in the Premier League that don't like to play for a draw. So we should.
You got to hand it to the. Yeah, I agree with that. You got to hand it.
We should go 1-1 at some point, and then we pull away 3-1. I think.
All right, James, what do you think?
Zuma goal. I'm putting a bet on that Saturday. Zuma goal.
Okay.
Lucas, you've just stolen my thunder. Now, I think set pieces. Leeds a week at set pieces like they was last year with us. Obviously, Souček and Ogbonna scored last year, and we won 2-1 up their place. The confidence is high. We're buzzing at the minute, and after Wednesday's game, I think we're going to go there and we're just going to go through Leeds, I think. I agree with what Lucas said. We need to score first in this game. I think if Leeds score first, then I don't want us to go behind.
Could be a long game.
Could be a long game. Yeah, because then they don't have to do anything. Yeah.
But I don't know. I've got a funny feeling. We go there up there and we keep a clean sheet. I think we might win this game 1 or 2-0. I really do. I think if we set up, score early, and then we get another one, I think we can see the game out. And one thing with West Ham at the minute, defensively, we look very good. Like wherever we go, whether it's in Europe or in the League Cup or in the Premier League, it's defensively we look pretty solid. So yeah, I'm
it's going to get better as you get Zuma integrated into the side. I'm sure he'll start on Saturday.
100%.
No doubt about that. Probably with Ogbonna. Yeah, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I can't. I never pick West Ham to win because I believe it's a jinx. So I'm just not going to pick anything at all, because the fact, as Tom said, the facts point to a very pleasant, successful Saturday. But as somebody who, like you guys, has supported West Ham for many years, we know when the opposition has a bunch of players out, when they're in bad form, that's when we're ripe. So I'm just going to say, let's hope that everybody has fun and there's no injuries. Like I say about my
some good, clean fun.
Like I say about my kids' games, just have fun, do your best, and don't be afraid to shoot. You got to yell at those kids all the time. Shoot. They just stand there with the ball. Anyway, Lucas and James, thanks for being with us. I will get in touch with you guys about when we're going to do all this again. Like I said, Lucas, if you want to do a Sunday show, please do, and we'll promote it and everything else. To Tom Clark from Football London, thank you. To the chat room, fantastic today. Thank you. And until our next show, it's actually tonight, 8:00 tonight Eastern time. Katie's got a hometown hammer out. She's back with a hometown hammer, so check her out and check out her show. She does a great job. And then there'll be a post-match show Saturday. Is it a Saturday? What's
Saturday.
Is it a 10 o'clock?
10.
It is 10 o'clock. Okay, Saturday 10 Eastern for the game. So 12:30 ish. I'm guessing for Chris and Irish Tom to do their post match show. Hopefully a happy wrap up. And until then, come on, you Irons.